Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's web event. My name is Steve, and I'll be your host today. Before we get started, I just want to review how you can participate in today's web event. We're looking at an example of the GoToWebinar attendee interface. The control panel is where you can interact with us. You should see something that looks like this on your own screen in the upper right corner. During the presentation, you have the ability to send questions to our webinar staff. Simply type your question into the question pane and click Send. Then, in the Q&A session at the end of today's event, we'll answer any questions that you submit. I'm very happy to be joined by another Steve today, Steve Mowchan. Steve is a Senior Solutions Consultant at Terillium, who specializes in demonstrating the value of multiple ERP systems to our companies. Today, Steve will be demonstrating the NetSuite product. Terillium is an ERP consulting firm specialized in implementing enterprise resource planning projects for our customers. While ERP projects carry risks if not performed properly, Terillium is very proud to have won many awards for our ERP implementations. Our mantra is that we're only as good as our last reference. We believe our success stems from our ability to deliver value for our customers and recognize all of our consultants for their ability to deliver our award-winning services. Terillium has more than 170 full-time consultants across the United States. These are all employees who work for us, not subcontractors, and they average over 16 years experience with either ERP packages and within your industry. Terillium developed this ERP comparison web series to assist companies who are considering new ERP systems. It can be a daunting journey, and we thought this series would be a great way to make the process more successful. The series will continue with Oracle's ERP Cloud product tomorrow morning at 11 Eastern, and J.D. Edwards tomorrow at 2 Eastern. On Thursday, we'll continue the series by comparing the pros and cons of cloud and on-premise ERP systems. And then our president, Dave Woodworth, will share his experience with ERP success factors. This afternoon, we're excited to show you the NetSuite product. I'll briefly introduce NetSuite, and then Steve will show us a live demonstration of the software. NetSuite was born in the cloud and designed to run an entire business. NetSuite is cloud first and cloud only, meaning it has all of the tenets you would associate with a real cloud solution. Access using any device, anytime, anywhere. Consumer-oriented, easy for anyone to pick up and use without extensive training. Built on a single data source, the unified data model is the key to enabling true BI the way companies need it today. The unified data model allows you to report and analyze your entire business end to end, and it's all real time. There's no need to build complex data warehouses or complex moving parts. All of this is built on the Suite Cloud platform. NetSuite's Suite Cloud platform offers unrivaled levels of personalization, customization, and development within a framework that ensures security, scalability, and globalization. NetSuite comes with all the features that you need to run your business. Everything from finance and accounting, including more advanced features like billing, financial planning, flexible financial reporting, even recurring revenue management, global consolidation, and rich ERP features like order management that also includes things like promotions and RMAs, production, including finite capacity planning and scheduling, procurement, warehouse management, including inbound and outbound logistics, inventory management, and supplier management. And some things that you might not expect from core ERP, such as customer relationship management, including not only Salesforce automation, but also marketing automation, human capital management with both payroll and benefits, and project management. NetSuite also includes over 300 BI components out of the box. which Steve will be showing us here in just a minute. The metrics you see on the screen really tell the NetSuite story. And the one I'll point out to you is 40,000 plus customers, which is easily double the size of its next competitor. NetSuite truly is the cloud leader in ERP systems. With NetSuite, customization is not a dirty word. 100% of NetSuite customers are on the same release. All of their customizations carry forward to new releases. So that's a brief overview of NetSuite, and now I know we're all excited to see the software in action, so I will change presenters here from Steve May to Steve Mowchan, another Steve M. Steve, I know we're all excited to see the NetSuite software live, so welcome to the webinar, and thanks for showing NetSuite to us today.
Thank you, Steve May. Yes, I'm excited to show you this. If you haven't seen NetSuite before, certainly from the time I log on here, it's going to kind of wow you a little bit, I hope. Logging into any internet browser, reminder again, NetSuite was the first complete ERP cloud solution. There's a reason that so many customers, over 40,000 customers, run NetSuite. What I've done here is logged on to a role-based dashboard. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, this would be for the headquarters CEO. Now, you can have multiple roles for each user. You probably will not, but you could. Depends on how large your organization is. This role, specifically geared toward a CEO, is very high level in the data that you see and in the way that you can quickly get an overview of various pieces of the business. On top, you'll see what are called centers. You've got a center for marketing, expenses, HR, financials, etc. Again, these will vary depending on what role is represented. During today's demo, I'm going to do an overview of the navigation, and then we'll do an order to cash, a brief order to cash scenario where I will log on and off as different roles or different members of the organization. So you'll see how these dashboards change based on what role is being represented for what business processes. So we've got this main dashboard. Each of these areas have their own similar, each of these centers kind of have a dashboard of their own. So here's a financials dashboard. They're all customizable or personalized, configured as you want. And I'll show you that a little bit again as we go through some navigation. This is representative of the complete ERP. Everything is integrated. As we look around the screen, we come to this box, which these individual boxes are called portlets. So this portlet, this KPI down here, has information on receivables, today and otherwise, inventory, cost, expenses, income, over years or periods or months. Again, it's up to you to determine what data you want to see. But take a look at that KPI. This type of information is all in one place. That's historically very difficult to get. There is no data warehouse that you have to build for this. There is no underlying or third-party BI tool or solution. This is out of the box from NetSuite. Pretty powerful to have that at your fingertips from day one. Another portlet here that we have is CEO financials. Taking a look at sales today, this week, this month, last month, quarters, fiscal years, number of invoices, deal size, profit, gross profit percentage. You, again, determine which of these metrics you want to see, but NetSuite has provided this out of the box to say, here's what we think you want. We hope we're pretty close. If you need to modify it a little bit and change them, you can do that. Running the whole thing at the top is the Subsidiary Navigator. You can think of a subsidiary as one of the a part of your business, a company, or maybe a location. Note that as you see all the subsidiaries here highlighted, if I select on a subset, it's like North America, whiting out the Australia and EMEA side, all of the data in the port list update to reflect only the data for North America. So if you want to check in an instant, you can see how different pieces of the business are doing. I'm going to take us back to the full high-level view. There are many preferences that you can use to set up, to individualize the data and how you see the screen. For a layout, we have variations on how many columns you'd like to see. This one obviously has two columns, a narrow column on the left and a wider column on the right. But we also have additional preferences by user. We have a lot of general preferences. What language do you want? What time zone are you in? Do you use multi-currency? What kind of format would you like for your date? Any of these that you have questions on, you can hover over the label. And you get a little, what's this? Pop up some field help. And unlike some software packages, the field help is actually helpful. There's a lot of information on the field help that can help you determine what the values need to be for you to get the most out of what you're looking to do. One of my favorite port lists in NetSuite is the reminders port list. Do you hate every day having to go run a report to see what the status of something might be? Do you hate always having to go dig into information to find out whether or not you need to work on something? The reminders port list eliminates all of that, so that's what you get out of it. These tasks that you determine you want to see pushed to you to say, okay, how many, in this case it's a CRM, so I'm looking at a number of CRM tasks to complete, but I can add and change reminders. I go into setup. I'm going to switch and do just the standard ones, not the custom ones. I'm going to do invoices overdue. Save this, and immediately my reminders now shows number of invoices overdue. I got a lot of them, but this is a demo system, so hopefully you won't see 428 overdue invoices. Clicking on the actual hot link brings me into a report that also has drill down capability. I can view the transaction record if I want and go see all the detail behind any of these late invoices. I also have the ability along the bottom to do some filtering, to do some searches. A lot of things in NetSuite allow you to immediately link or drill somewhere else to get more detail, or to go somewhere quickly and jump to another application. Part of those abilities to get around quickly are all over on NetSuite. They're kind of, I wouldn't say they're hidden, but just about anywhere on the screen there's something helpful. Here toward the top right, we've got what's called a new bar. This new bar allows me to go in and quickly view data or get to an application that allow me to create something quickly. In this case, again, being a CEO, I might want CRM activities, a task, customer contacts, opportunities. I don't know why a CEO would enter a sales org, but I think I just actually set that up for myself, because sometimes I do things in the CEO role that a normal CEO wouldn't do. Expense report. Again, Personalize. Pretty much everywhere you can personalize what you see here. Now, if I want to personalize this entire dashboard, I open this up, and here are a lot of pre-built, available out of the box portlets. I'm going to add a Kpi meter, and that's what we're going to do for now. Kpi meter, some of them are set up with different things to look at. This one has receivables. Or, I can drop down. Maybe I want to change it to expenses. And I'll have a different gauge pop up that shows me how I'm doing expense-wise. I like the reminders always staying at the top. So I'm going to drag and drop that, and reminders are back where I want them to be. Again, I can move these portlets around anywhere I want, drag and drop them. I can go from column to column to column if I wish. Also, when I do this, it's immediate. It's saved. I don't need to save it. Don't need to take an extra step. Don't need to ask someone in IT to do a promote for me and take it from my test environment to my production. Nope. Everything is there for you, permanent until you decide otherwise. Let's take a look around the screen a little bit further. As I drag this down, note that I can continue to add portlets depending on what I want to see. We've got a comparative sales portlet this year versus last year. Maybe I want it to be in a bar graph instead of as a line graph. Again, options out of the box. Top 10 items by quantity sold. Hover over, I get the item listed along with the quantity. Again, maybe I want this as a pie chart. You can change color schemes and appearance. They don't like the green. I did green because it was a CEO. Maybe I should have done that for the CFO. Done money for the CFO. Previous month, last fiscal year. Well, maybe I want to see a different chart. All kinds of them listed. As I switch, now I see the different period. Lots of things you can do with these. Hover over the drop down. I can view a report. I can print this chart, download it as an image, download it as a PDF. If I want to take this chart and immediately create an image out of it to add to a PowerPoint, it's very simple. Grab it and go. If I wanted to get rid of the Kpi meter, I just remove it. Neat stuff. No IT bottlenecks. That's what that's what you get out of this. You don't need to wait for IT to create these things. Say, oh, can I get a different KPI or can I get a different report? Chances are, with 40,000 customers representing, ideas for NetSuite, they've created something very similar to what you already will want. And yet there's additional things to help you navigate quickly. There's a favorites. If you don't have an application on your fingertips, you can add it to your favorites. Recent records, I love this. Maybe I was on the phone with somebody with an invoice, phone call finished, someone dragged me away from my desk, then I went to lunch and came back and said, what was that invoice or what was that order number I was working with? Look at recent records. I can go in and go display or edit mode right back into where I was. That's automatically saved for you. The system does that. And dragging down a little bit more. Here's our navigation portlet. These are the applications that you might use on a daily basis. This category is for executive management. But look, if I go look at this, there are lots and lots of categories. They'll be defaulted based on the role that you log in with. So the CEO gets executive management. But if you wanted to change it to sales, you could do that. And again, it saves that until you change it back. So let's go into an application. I'm going to go bring up the customer list. See, I've got a button to add a new customer. I've got a list of customers. I do have plenty of filters available. All of these filters, I can edit the view and add or remove fields to filter by. So lots of information here. I can go edit the customer. I can view the customer. Something I'm going to do here next, I've only seen available in NetSuite in the various ERP systems I've encountered over the years. Note that if I click on this, any of these rows, nothing's happening. I could probably hotlink. I've got some information here for my sales rep. I can jump and view and edit that. Also note that I popped this up in a new tab. So you can open NetSuite in many, many tabs if you want. Just another way of being able to jump quickly back and forth to the data that you might have open. So we said, nothing's happening here when I click on these. There's an edit feature, edit inline text. I'm going to turn this on. As I turn on the edit, you get a little green check mark. Along some of these headers now, you see pencils. Now if I go down into that column and I click on the column, it opens up. So I can change inline the grid. I can change multiples. Maybe I want to change that one, this one, and this one. Changing the sales rep from Sue Stacy to Steve Golden. When I tab out, all three have changed. So why is this important to you? What do you get out of this? Well, if I needed to make multiple changes immediately, I can do that. I can filter. Maybe I want to filter on sales rep. Notice I just start typing the name and it pops up for me. If I want to filter on Steve Golden, maybe Steve Golden has left the company and I want to change all of his sales reps to someone else, to the new sales rep. I can do that quickly, easily. Now there are mass change programs also available in NetSuite. But personally, if I'm doing something that is a manageable task, I like the feeling of knowing that I saw it get done. If I send something off in a batch program to do something, I might end up with Steve Golden and 400 other sales reps changed to the new sales rep before I realize what I've done. So I love this. This to me is a key differentiator of NetSuite and other ERP packages. Most ERP packages, you have to go in and edit each of these individually. No thanks. I'm going to close out of that, go back to the main screen. The security of each of these portlets, applications, etc., is tied to your role. So when you assign a role to a user profile, that user gains access to the security level of that role. Searching. There's a global search that works very well. I'm going to just type in Bob. Suddenly I get a list. A list that I can even show a lot more items on if I want. Customer's name Bob, contact's name Bob, vendor's name Bob. Well, maybe opportunities with Bob in the title. Maybe I just want to look at customers with Bob. I can filter that down by typing in CUS : prior to typing Bob. And then obviously, each of these I can go link and go directly to what I want to see. And again, if I type in Bob, I can keep typing until it limits to the one I'm looking for. Pretty good stuff. There's also a global, besides the global search, there's global help text. This is a really powerful search tool that just allows you to type in a topic and do a search, and you saw how quick that was. Allows you to bring up all kinds of documents and help that's much more vast than what you'd get on one of the help field helps. I've used this a lot. Even as I know NetSuite, I still refer back to this quite often to say, am I missing anything? Is there something else in the system that handles this business requirement? So at this point, I'm going to go in and start the order to cash. Again, like anything, I've done a brief overview of the navigation. There's certainly more than what I showed you, but in this overview, I just wanted you to get a feel for how NetSuite is laid out, how easy it is to personalize and configure all the dashboards. So I'm going to log off the CEO, log on to a sales rep. These are different roles I have assigned to my user profile. Again, most users in a regular environment would have one, maybe two. Maybe you're a backup for someone who goes on vacation, so you get assigned that role while someone else is on vacation, and you can switch back and forth. So I'm going to switch over to sales rep. And you'll note, different color scheme, different port lists. Reminders are now over here on the right. I can close them to be able to get at more data on the screen. I want to close any of these port lists or kind of minimize them, rather. For the workflow for a sales or order to cash, something about NetSuite that I've seen that can be really beneficial is how simple you can make these process flows. I'm going to show you a rather simple order to cash. You can make more steps, make it more complex based on your business requirements, but NetSuite can make it so simple. I see why customers just adhere to this immediately and can use the system with very little training. There are workflows that you can create to help you. Approval emails. Again, fitting your business. The suite flow or workflows within NetSuite allow you to default fields that allow you to set fields based on the value of another field. Of course, incorporating approvals of purchase orders and so on and so forth. So let's go to our new bar. We're going to enter a sales order. Again, the new bar, clicking on the sales order itself, takes me into add mode for the sales order entry form. The sales order flow we're going to have today is a simple sales order entry, order fulfillment, and then essentially invoice. Now that's a very simplistic process. As I mentioned, you could add steps. If you want, you can do individual pick, pack, ship. Instead of an overview of order fulfillment that captures those 3 steps together, it's all based on what your business needs are. So I'm going to type in a customer, and notice as I just start typing the customer names, the list will come up. I found the customer I wanted just with 3 characters. No customer number to remember, no having to go rifle through and accidentally typing in the wrong number and getting the wrong customer. Simply name. There are quite a few other fields on here that we can go in and set up. Payment terms, additional sales information, billing, promotions if you have pricing needs. I'm going to go in and type in an item. And again, as I start typing the item name, it starts bringing up all the possibilities, the item description. Finally get to the product I want. Note that it brings in availability, pricing, taxes. If I had a customer that was in an area where I was setting up for taxes, I could do that. This customer I have set up as not taxable. I'll change my quantity. Well, let me do 5 of these. Add that sales line. Again, other options. Are there any upsell items I'd like to look at? How about my shipping? My carrier defaulted from the customer master to UPS. Maybe I want to specify UPS ground. Whoa. Well, it's $30 for UPS ground, but it must be a heavy piece of equipment that I've got here. Immediately, my order summary shows me my shipping costs. You can have handling, and again, we talked about taxes. If you want to, if you have the need for sales taxes, and discounts. Going back to the promotions, you can have pricing discounts. Now I'm going to save this sales order. And essentially, you can make it as simple or as complex as you want. There are additional fields that if you want to go in and your business requires that there's some more specific information required, there are lots of other tabs. Inspection. Maybe there's inspection that's needed for a product. Quality inspection. Activities. That's tied to CRM. Again, this is all integrated. So if you've had activities that have caused the sales order to come out of an opportunity or a lead, these activities will be linked to this sales order record. Not only now, but throughout for history. So if you need to do some reporting to say, we have a CRM activity for a lead or an opportunity, what sales did it generate? My order is saved, and look what happened. I got an email immediately confirming my sales order with all the information on it. Again, you can create the email as you see fit, the information on it. That pops up right to me. A big green confirmation. And what's my next step? Pending fulfillment. Again, reminder, this is a simplified order to cash. If I had gone pick, pack, ship, it would have been waiting for picking. And in which case, I could have run a pick slip, run a pick list, had somebody go out using scanners or not to go pick, pack, and ship the product. All you have to do is use the advanced inventory management for NetSuite. Here's how simple this can be. Look, there's a fulfill button. The next step is pending fulfillment. What can be more simple than having a fulfill button right there, right after I've entered the order, or right when I go into the order? I don't need to go search around for a fulfillment program. In this case, however, I will make it a little bit more complex and say instead of doing all this under the sales rep role, I'll fulfill the order using warehouse operations. And it requires me to change this role. Again, I get a different dashboard. This time I'm going to go to reminders. I'm going to go to my orders to fulfill. Now I have 307 of them. So if you expect, there are ways to go about digging into and filtering the data. First of all, I'm going to take off the filter for location because I defaulted this in. It said US West Distribution Center is my typical for what I do, but in this case, I didn't specify where I wanted this to be fulfilled. So I'm going to go fulfill my order, Orler Corporation right here. Also note, along the left-hand side, we've got a series of checkboxes on the fulfill column on the far left. So what happens with those is that we get, we get a batch mode if we prefer. All right, we get a batch mode that says right an hour before we start a new shift, let's go fulfill all these orders so we have a bunch of things to ship out. You can choose that as an option, or you can check several of these at once to go in and fulfill. If I click the date field, I go in to edit the order. In this case, I'm just clicking the fulfill hot link that sends me into the item fulfillment screen. Not much to do here. I'm going to choose a location, but again, had I chosen that to default from either the customer or the item back on the sales order, it would have defaulted here. I get a on hand of 159 on the East DC. Again, I've got 5 if I needed to change that quantity because I only had 4 for whatever reason. The customer changed their mind on the last second, or maybe one was damaged. I could do that. And again, just saving is all that's needed here. Extremely straightforward and not difficult for to come up to speed on this. Similar to the sales order screen, I've got my addresses, my carrier information, my activities. So I've gone ahead and saved that transaction. So now the order is fulfilled, meaning it's picked, packed, shipped. Hey, look at this. Order number 18916 has been fulfilled. Give me an order summary, giving me tracking numbers. A little like Amazon, isn't it? Pretty cool. So I'm going to switch over to my controller role to do the invoicing. Something that you'll notice on the controller dashboard is a portlet for new release. Now, this new release, I'm going to open this up. This is what Steve May had mentioned regarding every customer is at the most recent release of the software. So you get a portlet that automatically pops up until you close it down for every new release they have scheduled. Currently, there's nothing new scheduled. This is the most recent release. They will give you this months in advance and let you know when a new release is coming. From this portlet, you can also learn a lot more about the enhancements to NetSuite, giving you plenty of opportunity to say, you know what, we've been looking for that for our business. Let's look to incorporate that into our processes as soon as the functionality is available. So here we are. So we're now at the controller. We got sales orders to invoice. So again, in the reminders, so again, you can run so much of your daily tasks based on reminders. Remind me what I need to do today. Invoicing, again, very similar to what you saw with the fulfillment. We have a list. We have some filters that we want that we can do. We can have this on a scheduler to go ahead and submit the invoice. At the end of the day, submit all my invoices for processing. These invoices could be generated as a paper invoice printed out. Not too many people do that anymore, but it can still be done. Or an emailed invoice to your customer, or EDI, or a combination for different customers. So again, if I wanted the link to go into the order, I could do that. In this case, I'm going to select the invoice link. And it'll pull just this Euler Corporation invoice for processing. Note also that there are other fields on that screen too that can help you filter. So I'm in the invoice screen. Again, it brings up my totals. I'm not going to do anything else here except save, which will create the invoice, send the invoice charges over to the GL and the AR for payment. And again, send that invoice on how you prefer, or how that customer prefers. It might submit it, might email it, it might send it via EDI. So the invoice is generated. Let's go back to the CEO role. Go back to that CEO financials. Now I haven't updated this because I didn't really log off. All I did was switch roles. But look, we had for sales for today. We had $0. I'm going to refresh this portlet. And as it refreshes, the sales for today is now $65. So again, everything being integrated, you get real-time data in all of your portlets, all of your KPIs. No waiting until the end of the day to do a batch update of everything. Hey, look, man, this is great. You know, my KPI this morning has shown the same thing at 7 a.m. as it did at 5 p.m. And of course, I'm going to hot link into today's order. So here's the list. From this report, you know, you call it a report, but it's interactive. I can view the customer record, or I can view the detailed report. So let's go view the detailed report. Here's my invoice. I want to view this transaction record. So I can even go and now actually get to that application where the invoice is located. Again, it was simple because we just had one invoice done today. And look at this. The invoice is ready to accept payment. Again, another easy big blue button to help you figure out what to do next. You can do returns and so on and so forth. There's lots of functionality in NetSuite. And I just showed you a simplistic order to cash. I'm not going to go in and accept the payment. This will be the end of the order to cash demo. But I hope you got a feeling for how easy it is to set up NetSuite, to get up running quickly on it, which is why so many of the implementations are so fast and don't take years. It's a really very user-friendly product that over 40,000 customers have helped essentially design over the years with their feedback. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve Mowchan, for a nice demonstration of NetSuite. I think the user interface, the functionality, of course, you focused on order to cash, but the complete functionality across the organization is pretty impressive. And then obviously the excellent reporting and BI that we got to see was really impressive. So certainly appreciate your demo today. I want to remind everyone that if you have any questions about anything you saw or anything in general, please feel free to type your questions into the question pane. We do have several here that we will go ahead and attempt to answer. So the first question is, how would an organization that uses QuickBooks integrate into the ERP from a financial standpoint? And the question, more specifically, would the organization be required to work completely within the ERP financial management system, or merely upload the data from QuickBooks into the ERP and use the user interface? So that's a very good question. We actually have a lot of our smaller customers move from QuickBooks to NetSuite. And typically when QuickBooks starts to be unable to keep up with your growth, especially around your reporting needs, then we see customers start to look for something a bit more robust, and some of them call it real with regard to their financial package. So that's definitely an upgrade over QuickBooks. The second part of the question is kind of, do we have to use the ERP, or could we use QuickBooks and integrate finance to the ERP? There's no mandate that you would have to use NetSuite's financial system. You could technically use QuickBooks as your financial system and NetSuite as your operational system. I think most people find that to be too much overhead in terms of interfacing, right? Since NetSuite already has financials built in, and anytime you move inventory, you're creating a financial transaction. Anytime you receive raw materials in, financial transaction. Complete a manufacturing work order, financial transaction. Invoice somebody, financial transaction. A lot of people think it's much easier to use NetSuite's financials, which are already integrated, rather than build all those interfaces into QuickBooks. So hopefully that answered the question. We see most customers upgrade from QuickBooks to NetSuite and use those financials within their ERP. Next question, and definitely appreciate all these questions. These are really good ones. How secure is the data that is stored on the NetSuite program? Customers and company data security is always one of the highest priorities. How is this managed? That's a very good question. It's a question we hear a lot, especially with cloud-based systems. I'll give you kind of my semi-sarcastic answer, and then I'll read you kind of more of a technical answer. And to the person who asked this question, anybody else who's interested, let me know. I'll send you some specs on this. My sort of challenging answer is, who manages your data today? And when you compare that to what I'll say next about Oracle and NetSuite and the way they manage their data centers, there's really no comparison, right? And I'll read you a little bit of the specs on NetSuite employs stringent round-the-clock monitoring tools, controls and policies, and a dedicated tenured security team to ensure that it provides the strongest security for its customers. NetSuite's met a host of audit and security standards, including SSAE 16, PCI, and US EU Safe Harbor Framework. NetSuite's modeled its security and risk management process according to the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So some of the highlights here are role-level access, an idle disconnect, continuous security monitoring by enterprise intrusion detection systems, complete separation of duties, the physical access, stringent security policies, round-the-clock armed security guards, bulletproof glass in the data center. And I could go on, but I'll send you some of the technical specs. It's an extremely secure procedure that NetSuite employs, and we find that's many times the amount of security that a private company would be able to provide on their own. It's a great question, though. A lot of people have that concern. Another question here, regarding cloud-based software, what requirements from a Wi-Fi or internet standpoint? If you're in a remote location with slim internet service that's very limited in speeds, how impactful would that be? So the technical requirement for NetSuite connection speed is 56K, which is the old, dial-up speeds. So if you have an internet connection, it can be a very limited connection and NetSuite will still work. However, you do need an internet connection. We have seen some people in remote sites do things like, hotspots on Wi-Fi devices and that kind of thing. But you are right. You do need an internet connection to run this service. Steve, this may be one for you. How many roles can one user have? Is there a limitation there?
There really is not. The administrator assigns and inactivates roles. So I inactivated a lot of mine. Before this demo, I had about 20 roles assigned to my user profile, and certainly that's way more than you would ever want someone to have in an actual customer situation. So I'm going to say unlimited. Certainly there is a number somewhere, but it's well beyond what you would need.
Thank you. Next question. Who manages your overall database if you have limited IT capabilities? And that's really what NetSuite excels at, is that the cloud-based nature of NetSuite means that NetSuite is managing your database, your servers, your operating system. All of that IT infrastructure is managed by NetSuite, and that's what you're paying for on a monthly basis, is to have your application hosted. All of the infrastructure is provided. NetSuite guarantees uptime of 99.99% of that infrastructure, and all of that is managed for you. Next question, could we see the shop order process? Yeah, we'd like to show you that. We're a little bit limited on time today, so we chose a process that everybody could relate to. But we will certainly follow up with the person who asked that question. We'd be happy to show you that process maybe in a more one-on-one demo. Does anyone use NetSuite for service work or rentals? Yeah, and in fact, the service industry is one of the industries that NetSuite targets. They do have a pretty robust service management capability, and again, we can talk to you more about that one-on-one to the person who asked that question. So very, very good questions. I appreciate everybody for asking those. I think that makes the session more interactive, so we definitely appreciate that. If anyone has any others, type them in here fast. And if we don't happen to catch it in time, we'd certainly be happy to follow up with you one-on-one. So at this time, that will conclude our webinar for today. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out of your day to view NetSuite. I hope that was beneficial to you, and thank you very much, Steve Mowchan, for your time and showing us the product.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone.